Hey comrades, what's up? We're back with more Dazzler. That's right. And this is going to be a long one. There's like 7 issues in a row, starting with issue number 17. So we pick up with Dazzler. She's dating lawyer boy Patrick. Hold on, let's see if it says it here anywhere. Anyway, they're out kissing, and then they get attacked by some goons. And then Dazzler has to beat him up, and then she has some questions about how weak her boyfriend is, and maybe she should be dating like a superhero instead, or something. But she's going back and forth in the whole situation, and then we get some fan service with her changing some bra shots, some night. What do you call it? A nightie, very sexy, all that stuff. She gets a letter from Jessica Drew, saying she's still looking for her mom. She's working and whatnot. She goes to work the next day. She's wearing this outfit that is like peak fan service with her cleave. It goes all the way down, this V. You get such a great shot. Oh, Dazzler, so good. Anyway, and then she goes in to talk to Hurray, her boss, essentially. And then she gets concerned because some other lady who works in the same, works for Hurray as well, is like getting famous. And then Dallason's like, when's it going to be me? Then she goes to practice with their band, and then she meets the girl. And let's see, this girl's like super inspired by Dazzler because she was there at the club when she got attacked by Enchantress, and they sing and they're having a great time. And then we flip over to Carter Blair, and he's just like throwing shit around, talking about how he misses his wife and he can't get over her and whatever, and Grandma tries to calm him down. And then Vanessa, who's the girl, and Dazzler, they split up. We go back to that. And then all of a sudden, as Allison's kind of walking away, guess who shows up? Warren Worthington. That's right. Angel shows up. And he's like, what's up? You might know me. I'm super rich. And he like chases her around and is like, oh, I'm in love with you. I know I'm dating Candy Southern, but you know, I'm an angel and you're a superhero and I want to be together and stuff. I was thinking about you. I haven't stopped thinking about you since we got into that fight with Enchantress like all those moons ago. Anyway, I was just making sure I was saying that right. So she's like, I don't know, I'll think about it, right? And then she's wearing this extremely sexy dress while she's on a date with her boyfriend. And they're chit-chatting. And then Warren Worthington shows up as like the guy serving them. And she's like, the fuck, get out of here. Like, he's really persistent. So she takes the boyfriend back over to her place. And they're chit-chatting. And he's like, oh, that's cool. Like, he's really into it. He's super rich. His name's Ken, that's right. And then they go smooch and they bang it out. And then she's, oh no, they don't bang it out because she says she needs some space. She needs to think about stuff. And at that point, Warren Worthington shows up, essentially kidnaps her and flies around town. And she's like, well, this is nice. And then they smooch by the not the Empire State Building. Well, is that where it's at? They smooch somewhere in the sky. She's like, I don't know, I got a lot of stuff to think about. She's on some like Jimmy Kimmel show. And as she's leaving late in the night, or I guess at some point, Warren Worthington rolls up and is like, hey, babe, let me take you out. And so they start driving around, and then ruh-roh, Doc Octopus is there. What are they going to do? They both transform, and they start fighting. Well, at first, Angel is a misogynist and is like, I got this, babe. You stay here. And she's like, whatever. And the fan service in this continues to be excellent. Like, so many good shots of Allison and her older sexiness. But they fight. We get shown an anime battle with Dr. Octopus, who's just like, I don't know, trying to tip over like a fucking chimney or some shit. It's bizarre. Anyway, so they fight. Warren Worthington's having a rough go, and then she blasts Octopus, and they team up, and they beat the shit out of him and knock him down to the ground where the police are there, and they gas him up real good. They literally gas him hard. And then Warren takes Allison back to her place, and she's like, I don't think I want to do this. All I want you to do is leave. Stop bothering me. And he's like, oh, yeah, we'll figure that out. And as he's walking out, he sees the letter from Jessica Drew to Allison and is like, aha, if I find her mother, she'll have to be with me. And it's like, bro, get a hint. Plus, Candy Southern is awesome. What the fuck's wrong with you? And then the issue 117 ends with the Absorbing Man bumping his way through LaGuardia, some airport into New York where she's living. And he's like, I'm looking for Dazzler. Dun, dun, dun. So, what's going on with the Absorbing Man? We'll find out soon. First, Dazzler's hanging out with the Fantastic Four. They're playing saxophone and whatever, and then Reed builds her this crazy, like, super powerful sound machine so she can fight and have extra power, and she flips out because she's a singer, not a fighter, and then Sue has to come in and, like, calm her down a little bit, and finally Allison decides she's going to take it. Meanwhile, Warren Worthington goes to visit Allison's grandma to find out more about the death of her mom. We see that her dad's just having a real rough time doing his thing. And then the Absorbing Man's here. He's here to kill the Fantastic Four. He's here to kill the Avengers. We get like his whole backstory. He like was fighting them, got knocked in the water, got turned to stone, or got beat up by the Hulk. Then these guys thought he was like their god. He got all this money, and then he came back. And somehow he's going to use Dazzler to gain the power to defeat the Avengers or something. Anyway, Dazzler's out on a date with her boyfriend at the baseball game, and they're smooching and whatnot. And then over with Harry Osgood and his sidekick, they get bashed in by the Absorbing Man. He demands to know where Allison is at. They tell him at the concert that Allison's at, she uses the device, and it's like way too powerful, and so it causes a lot of problems. And then the Absorbing Man apparently was going to use Dazzler as a hostage, but now he's decided he's not going to do that. He's going to steal her powers instead somehow. So he breaks in, grabs Allison, threatens her, sees, like, grabs a device from her, uses it. He's like losing his mind. She absorbs all this sound, hits him, and then he ends up absorbing all the sound. And now he's like a super tall, powerful, light-filled magic guy. Which wraps up issue 18. So 19 picks up wherever that leaves. So Allison's there. She's freaking out. She makes a break for it and hides out. And the Absorbing Man like takes off to fight the Avengers. Meanwhile, Warren Worthington gets like he's chilling in some hotel, like the Park Hotel in New York, and he's thinking about the conversation he had with Grandma Blair and how that didn't go so well. And then Allison's trying to call everybody, the Avengers. They don't take her seriously. The Fantastic Four, no one answers. So she heads over to the Fantastic Four house. And once she's inside there, she looks around for anybody. No one's around. And so she sees like the Medusa and Black Bolt, the Inhumans. And so reaches out to them, tells them what the problem is, introduces herself. And Black Bolt teleports down with his like dog guy, Dogbert or something. Anyway, he can't talk. She finally realizes that, but she leads him to where the Absorbing Man is at so they can start to fight. They fight. Black Bolt's doing all right, but then he gets beat up pretty good. And then Absorbing Man's about to smash him, and Allison finally steps in to fight back. Elsewhere, Warren Worthington is watching the fight, and he's like, freak, I gotta go help out. And so does the boyfriend. They both see it at the same time. They both head over to help, seeing what's going on. And then Black Bolt creates like a shield to protect them from the Absorbing Man. Well, he tries to explain like a plan. And the plan is obviously, if you don't know Black Bolt, his power is that he screams, and it like creates vast destruction, that even like a whisper, so he can't talk. And so he essentially is able to get Dazzler to figure out this plan so they can work together to stop the Absorbing Man. So they get it set up. He blasts her with so much power and she really doesn't want to kill this guy, so she's going to try to find a way to like absorb the power or like beat the power off him so that he can be arrested. And she's successful. They have like a very short like shonen anime battle between the two of them with like light magic and power, and then she starts to fall because she had so much power, light magic from all the sound from Black Bolt, that she's about to crash into the ground. Well, she was flying. And so Angel swoops in, gets her, and then the boyfriends, like Warren and Ken, or whatever his name is, they like shake hands. And Allison's like, hey, boyfriends, you guys talk. I got some other stuff to do. So she goes and helps out Black Bolt so they can get like Absorbing Man put into Riker's prison or whatever. She hugs Black Bolt. He gets his dog boy back, and they teleport out of there. And then we get kind of like a couple final scenes. One of them's with the Judge Blair is just like out of his fucking mind. There's a psychiatrist there trying to talk to him, and then Allison, or the Grandma Blair, doesn't know what to do, so she calls Warren. And then elsewhere, Allison's meeting with her little friend wearing like a fine fucking what do you call it, fan service outfit dress. And then her little like her friend who's like a singer and doing great, and she's young or whatever, she's like, oh, I got music lessons, I'll see you later, Allison, it was great talking to you. And she goes, and she's meeting with Barbara London, and they're having a good old grand time. And then she's like, oh, I gotta use, can I get a glass of water? And she's like, oh yeah, it's over there. And then when I think her name's Vanessa heads over to the kitchen, she sees something, and she's like, no, it can't be. Which wraps up issue 19. So moving along here, we get to issue number 20, and Allison, it looks like Allison's like confronting her dad and screaming at him, but in reality it's just a nightmare he's having. He's still kind of in a coma. Warren got the message from Grandma and goes to visit. Allison's wandering in the park, and then it looks like some thug grabs her and like tries to steal her brooch. And when she blasts him with light, she finds out it's like some kid. It's like some 15-year-old boy. So she picks up the brooch, and she sees two men in there. There's two men in her mother's brooch. What could this possibly mean? Back with Vanessa, who, if you remember from like a minute ago, she walked into the wrong room, and what she found was like some sort of creepy like shrine to Dazzler. And then what's her name? Barbara London walks in and is like, Vanessa, how dare you come in here? Get the fuck out. Meanwhile, Allison goes to visit like her bandmates. Like one of them's married to this chick who has a baby, the mustache guy, of course. And there's like mustache guy, fat guy, and blonde guy. Anyway, so they're all hanging out, taking pictures of the baby and whatnot. And then guess who shows up? Oh no, it's, who the fuck are these guys? It's like Johnny Guitar and Dr. Sax. And then we get like some crazy backstory where these guys were assaulting like Allison's bandmates at some point because something with criminality, or like they walked in and like these guys were trying to rob them or whatever, and so they beat the shit out of them and got them sent to jail. And then as part of that, Dr. Sachs or whatever got his eyes burned out, but then the tech master or whatever like gave them new abilities or whatever, so now the Johnny's guitar can like play guitar and cause problems, and Dr. Sachs can like cause headaches or like delusions or whatever. And so then they start fighting these guys. They're going to beat it pretty good. Dazzler's like in the other room with the baby. And so she sees what's going on. She's like, oh, I got to save him. Back to Vanessa and Barbara. We get some story about Barbara. She's like, oh, let me tell you that here's a picture of my daughter. She loves Dazzler. That's what the room is. Sorry, I was kind of freaked out or whatnot. We then see Warren looking for Dazzler all over the place. She visits the boyfriend. She visits the manager, Harry, and then heads off. And back at the apartment, Allison finally is like, oh no, they're torturing him with this sound and the baby. So she grabs the baby and she makes a run for it. And then she has to fight back. And so she fights and beats the shit out of them in like some shonen anime battle. It's pretty good. Not going to lie. And then Warren finally tracks down Allison, picks her up and takes her off. And then Barbara confesses finally to Vanessa as they're trying to sing that she lied earlier, that it's actually her, like she's Allison's mom. Dun, dun, dun. And then we get the giant-sized Dazzler, which is just issue number 21, but it's a double-sized issue. And this is where we wrap up a lot of our family drama. So we get some like recap of the previous issue. We see Spider-Man because it's a double-sized issue, so we kept time to like put Spider-Man in here. Warren carries Allison to her father, who's been in like a coma. She calls her out. He gets up. They start arguing, yelling, and she's like, "Fuck you, I'm gonna leave." And he's like, "No, let me tell you about your mother." So he talks about. So we find out that they met and then they were in love and everything was great, and she was a singer and he was studying for law school. But after he became a lawyer and they had Allison, he wanted her to stop going out and doing music stuff, right? And she was like, no. So she kept doing it, and then she found this guy like Nick Brown and they fell in love, right? And then she was doing like drugs and booze, and finally she just like abandoned her family. And so that left Papa Blair to like raise Allison on her own. And you know, at some point they just stopped communication. Allison's like, I don't believe it. That's wrong. You know, you're just blah, 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 blah. And then Allison's like crying and Warren's standing by her. And then we flip over to Barbara and she's like, it's all true. And she's like, let me tell you the story. And it is all true. She left her husband and her daughter to be with this guy. And this guy was getting her to do drugs and booze. And they were just doing all sorts of shady stuff. And at some point she found him like hooking up with other women. And then they had a kid, like another daughter. And then she was like in a sad state and she was still doing drugs and like cocaine or morphine or something to like feel better. And finally she just like, I got to go. And so she abandoned that guy. Thank goodness for her. And then she had to like slowly rebuild her reputation. And instead of being a singer, she was just going to be a singing teacher and stuff. So she worked real hard for that. And then Harry calls Dazzler like later on, and he has a new gig for her at Carnegie Hall. And there's like this really shady looking dude who makes Allison super uncomfortable. He grabs her tush, and then she's really distracted by all this stuff, by the family drama and whatnot. And this guy's like, I'll give you some happy pills. And she's like, get the fuck out of here. There's a lot of fan service in this too, by the way. She's wearing this awesome shirt in this scene. Anyway, and then she goes dress shopping for like the show or something with Vanessa, and this is like supreme fan service. We get Allison and Vanessa just dressing up in like sexy outfits and like partially, you know, changing where you see like the side boob and everything. So super good stuff. And then she goes on a date with boyfriend and they're hugging it out. And at some point she meets up with Warren again and they do a little smoochy. She's like doing her thing. And finally we head over to right before the concert, Papa Blair sees the ad for it, and he's like, I got to do what I should have done a long time ago. And then we get like a parade of superheroes, like Fantastic Four, the Avengers, Daredevil, Heroes for Hire, which are Luke Cage and Iron Man. Beast shows up, Mr. Wonder shows up. Oh no, Mr. Wonder Man, Quasar, if you remember that guy. He shows up and pretends to like secret, so Allison doesn't get mad because he kind of fucked her over a little bit. And Vanessa had talked Mama Blair, Barbara, into going too, and she's like super nervous and doesn't know if she should really do it, but she came. So then Allison's like super tense and she's like yelling at Harry, and then some other guy comes in to give her drugs and she like yells at him and like breaks some stuff and is super angry. And then finally Daddy comes in and she like loses it, and they like have a nice conversation, and he's like, I support you, I'm sorry I've been mean to you and done all this stuff, and I don't know. And Allison's like, I just don't feel like doing this concert today. Will you just please take me home, Dad? I love you. Thank you so much for finally being respectful and whatnot. And he's like, yeah, of course, anything you want. And then Vanessa shows up and she's like, I'm going to leave, Vanessa. I'm not going to do this show. And she's like, no, but I brought your mom here. And like, you're my mom? What? And then it's like a minute to showtime and the band starts playing. And then Allison thinks about all the people who were at the Carnegie Hall and about the Avengers and all the other superheroes and her mom. And she's like, I'm sorry, Dad, I got to do this. And he's like, no, I love you. Do it. And so she goes out and she puts on this like banger of a show that everyone's like, oh, super impressed, and lights and everything. And afterwards, all the like Beast is there and Johnny Storm and boyfriend, and everyone's like super excited. So she cleans up her like crazy face makeup, heads out, meets Mama. They have like a good cry. They hug it out a little bit. I think his name's Carter. Yeah, it is Carter. Carter Blair, her dad comes over, they like hug it out, and then he walks her home, and then at home there's a big surprise party, and all the superheroes that showed up before are there, and then she gets some smoochy time with a boyfriend, and it's, the whole family stuff got resolved. That's so sweet. It's actually very sweet as a guy who has a daughter. It was exceedingly sweet and nice to see. But we pick up in issue number 22 with more shenanigans. So Angel's flying around and getting attacked by hawks for some reason. And so we have like a shonen anime scene with him like fighting the hawks throughout town and stuff and hitting them with like trash cans and whatnot. And then we get Allison, who saves a girl by blasting like her radio or something because she's not paying attention to what she's doing and she wants to get hit by a car. And then police officer gets them to like the recording studio because she's never had a recorded album, but now that she's famous because of Carnegie Hall and whatnot, it's time to do that. And so they go, and it's like a grueling anime scene of them working at the recording studio. And then the producer is getting talked to by his assistant, and she's like, wow, you're really pushing them hard. They're fantastic. And he's like, because they're so fantastic, I must push them harder. And then they finally finish, and everything's great. And then guess who shows up? Dun, dun, dun. Well, not here, but we flip over to the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which now consists of the Sisterhood of Evil Mutants, because it's just Mystique, Rogue, and Destiny? Yes, I'm pretty sure it's Destiny. I'm sure that's what it is. Anyway, she's the blind one who can see in the future, who's like hooking up with Mystique. They talk about how they need to get revenge on Warren Worthington because the X-Men are gone or something, because this is taking place right when the X-Men are like in space and have disappeared for a while. Anyway, Carter's in his attic, and he's like putting together all the stuff that he's going to send to Barbara, the stuff he's been holding on to, he's ready to let go. And then we go to Barbara, and she's getting ready for her other daughter, Lois. Yep. To come visit her, and she's super excited to let her know about her half-sister Allison and how they're back together. Meanwhile, Ken and Allison are on a date. She's kind of mad at him, as she usually does, because he's like telling her the truth. She then heads over to where the Park Plaza Hotel where Warren's at, and he's like all cut up and injured, and he's like talking about some crazy stuff. And they go for a little flight to take a break. And while they're doing that, Rogue, Destiny, and Mystique in a helicopter find them, and then we have like a shonen. I don't get much of a shonen anime, but Warren gets hit in the head, and then Mystique pretends to be Candy Southern, and then knees him in the nuts, and then she laughs about it because she's a total bitch. And then Allison starts trying to fight, as well as Angel. Allison gets tossed off a cliff, and then she's about to steal the powers of Angel, but she doesn't want wings because she doesn't want to be a monster. And so they're just like, I will just kill him later. So they put him in the helicopter. But then Allison like crawls her way back up the cliff, beats the shit out of all of them. They take the helicopter and they fly off. And then back at her place, she puts on some clothes, and someone's knocking at the door. She goes, gets it, and it's dun dun dun. It's Louis, sorry. Lois? It's Lois. I think it's supposed to be Lois. Their sister. It takes us to issue number 23, where Allison wakes up and Supreme Fan Service in like a nightie, and she's like, oh no, there's a fire. What are we going to do? And so she starts using like her light magic to clear some stuff out, and it looks like Lois like spent the night there, and so she's also in like bra and panties. So we get a lot of fan service here as they like go and run around the building trying to help people get out of the fire and whatnot. And Lois is like, oh wow, you're like a superhero. And she's like, yeah, something like that. And then we meet Fire. I think that's his name. They just call him Fire. He's the guy who started all the fires. Oh, Flame. They call him Flame. His name's Flame. He rides a motorcycle and has like a dagger. He's got a kind of badass costume, but he's kind of an asshole. Anyway, the owner of the building is like blaming everyone but himself and talking about how terrible everything is. And someone's like, that guy's a real asshole. Crowley, I think his name is. We head back over to the Sisterhood of Evil Mutants, if you will, and Rogue's like, I want revenge on Alice and Blair, on Dazzler. And Mystique's like, that's a bad idea, we're not going to do that. And then Destiny's like, I agree, that is also a terrible idea. Let's just leave well enough alone. We don't need to do anything about that shit. Allison, meanwhile, is off practicing when the Heroes for Hire show up. So she called Luke Cage and Iron Fist to come and protect her because she got attacked by Rogue and she's concerned about another attack. And then dun dun dun, the flames start again. So someone like lit this building on fire, of course, the same guy. So then Iron Fist and Luke Cage, who I think is called Power Man at this point. I don't know if he's going by Luke Cage at this juncture. Anyway, they help out, get everybody out, but the building like burns down. And Allison's all sad eponymous about it. And then we flip back over to Barbara and Lois, who are just like out shopping when Lois passes out, and her mom's like super concerned. She's like, oh, it must have been the fire and everything. And then Lois thinks that like, no, it's been going on like this for a while. I just can't let my mom know. What do you think Angel's doing this whole time? That's right. He's growing a 5 o'clock shadow and hiding out in some cafe playing Space Invaders because he doesn't want to get beat up by Rogue again. Allison heads over to boyfriend. They do some smoochy time. And then she heads over to deal with something at Crowley's place. He's the guy who owns the building, and she overhears him talking to Flame about how he needs to leave Allison Blair alone because he hired him to like burn the building down so he could get the insurance money or whatever, but that this whole other thing is like nonsense. And then Flame's like, hold up, someone's there, and he goes and he grabs Allison and like knocks her out, and the guy's like, fuck you, and he's like, go fuck yourself. And then he drives somewhere and like throws her against the wall and then like wanders off. So Allison uses some like just ingenuity to like cut open the bonds that he tied her up with, and then they get into like a shonen anime battle where she's using light powers, she's using flame. They get to a point where she's using like a literal light sword that she created with her light powers, and he's using a flame sword. It's pretty badass. And then she like blasts him real good, and right as she's blasting him like real good to the end, Iron Fist and Luke Cage show up because they've been like looking for her this whole time, and they went and found Crowley, and he gave them like the information, so they were able to come like not save her but like get her out of there before the fire spread too much or something. I mean, they didn't do nothing, they did something. And then at that juncture, they're like, cool, sounds good. And then Rogue somehow figures out where Allison lives, and so she's going to go get her, which is into issue number 24. And so Rogue kicks in like Allison's apartment or something, and she's like, Allison's not here, I'll just wait. And then she does like a recap of what had occurred before. She smashes the place up a little bit. Allison's just like hanging out somewhere, walking, and some dude rolls up to her. And he's like, hey, there's somebody, it's like one of the roommates, or not roommates, one of the guys in the building. He's like, hey, there's someone in your room. And it's like, Rogue? And he's like, yep, that's the one. And she's like, God damn it. And so she calls the Heroes for Hire, Iron Fist and Luke Cage. And so they head over there and they start fighting Rogue. And they're like going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Luke Cage gets thrown out of the building. Iron Fist gets hit pretty bad. Right as Allison's coming back, she sees Luke Cage. He's fine. She runs in, uses her light powers right as Rogue's like escaping out of there. And then checks on Iron Fist, who's not doing great. Anyway, so she's concerned for her sister, but she goes to like do some more recording with the guy, but then she's got to like, she's like, oh, I'll call you later about some stuff. I got to figure this out. She goes, hangs out with boyfriend. They do some smoochy time. She falls asleep on his couch because comics code, they can't have sex, but she's looking fine. Warren is tired of playing Space Invaders, so he rents out like a whole gym so he can like fly around. The Hero for Hires are still looking for Rogue. Rogue heads over to Lois's dorm room, and Allison kind of follows her there, or like, it's kind of confusing. One of them followed the other one to like Lois's room, and then Rogue got in there. Oh no, that's what it was. Rogue followed Allison to her room because she's dressed up like a normal person instead of her crazy green outfit. And then Lois is like passed out on the floor. If you remember, she has like passing out things. And then she asks Allison if she's a mutant. And Allison's like, you're probably just anemic, girl. Like, sweetie. And the Rogue like kicks the door in and like smacks Allison around a little bit. And then the sister tries to get involved and she gets smacked around again. And then Allison like puts on skates and is like, you want something, Rogue? Come get me. And she like jumps through the window like on the second floor and then starts skating off. Which is super fucking impressive. And then they get to like it's like Central Square or something. Like kind of looks like a train station or a building. And she gets the people to play like loud music in the building. And so then her and it could be a library. Anyway, so her and Rogue start having a battle here, like an anime battle with like light powers and more light powers, and then Rogue tries to steal her powers, and then Luke Cage and Iron Fist show up and they beat the shit out of her, and then she's laying there and she's like, all right, I give up. And then at this point, Rogue reveals to Dazzler that the X-Men are all dead, so the only like quote-unquote X-Men left are Dazzler and Angel. And the Rogue's like, I don't know what to do here, but I'll tell you one thing. And then she pulls out some music and then blasts everyone with light magic because she stole light magic, remember? And for some reason, Lois is there now. Okie dokie. And then she like, Rogue flies away, and and then one sec, and then her sister is like, oh, I'm worried about fainting, and Allison's like, don't worry, we'll take care of you. But the sister's super scared, so that's that for Dazzler. I think part 5. Jesus. So I'd like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later.